All right, guys, welcome to Tinfoil Hat Live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver adjacent studios. That's right. Wolfpack Gold, you too can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month. Precious Metals sent right to your house. Very excited for today's episode. Very excited. We've been really on fire lately, okay? Our guest is an independent researcher, chef, half-assed musician, his words, not mine, and host of the Virginia is for Conspiracy Lovers podcast. Please welcome Ernie LeBrecque. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. Happy to be here, Sam.
Very excited to have you on. You've been on my premium content. Now we're here at the big show. For those who aren't familiar with you and your show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, so anywhere podcasts are available. I actually recently just had like a crash and all of my we took about a 4-month hiatus, and as soon as I came back, all of my stuff on Apple Podcasts disappeared, and everything off of Spotify. The podcast is just gone. I'll have that fixed within the next week. But it's Virginia's for Conspiracy Lovers podcast. We talk to a lot of different researchers. We're kind of a Virginia centric conspiracy podcast, and being born and raised in Williamsburg, Virginia, you quickly learn that all conspiracy roads kind of lead through Virginia, whether it be modern deep state stuff, in that we have, more CIA bases, more military bases, more defense spending, more defense contractors. We have the third most UFO sightings. And then back into like the hidden history side of things, being that the founding of this country started right here in Virginia, and it was founded under some pretty shady characters and some pretty shady circumstances, which I think I'm going to talk about interesting piece of that today. So that's what we do. But we also talk to, we've had a few authors on talk about our couple of Virginia serial killers. And we've talked to Brisson about the Finders cult that is in Virginia, and just stuff like that. Virginia centric conspiracy.
I love it. So and your governor's CIA. I mean, you guys check all the boxes.
You look no further than our elected officials in this state to find the fingerprint of the deep state.
She wasted no time.
Yeah,
she's just like, I'm in, wreck everything, set the Constitution on fire.
I was screaming about her from, years ago when she was running for other office, because she came out and everybody was just, all the Democrats were so excited about Abigail. And I was like, the party that used to, buck at the deep state and whatnot, and now you're just inviting one right in. This is a CIA linguist. I mean, she's dark. So yeah, and she's not wasting any time. She's turning us into California. We are going to be the California of the East Coast.
And yeah, they all are. These Bolsheviks, dude, they are just unfucking relenting, dude. Just unrelenting. And it's like so crazy because she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna pass this gun law, but we're gonna give ourselves exemptions. How do you not instantly go, oh, you're a piece of shit? You give yourself an exemption.
The whole point of her of what she's doing is she's trying to make the entire state do and be governed in the way that Northern Virginia is. And if you, Johnny, I'm sure if you've been to Southern Virginia or Western Virginia, which makes up 90% of the state, there could be, I get so frustrated when I go out of town and people are like, oh, you're from Virginia? I've been to DC. And I'm like, the difference between Northern Virginia and DC and the rest of the state couldn't be any more different than you're talking about Manhattan and Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, it is that different. And so,
I mean, New York State's like that. It's like 90% of its population is in New York City. The rest of it is just empty. The rest of it's just empty.
And the crazy thing is we're already a blue state. Like, it was kind of insane that Youngkin became the governor, but he was a pretty middle of the road as far as Republicans go, governor. But we're already a blue state, and with this gerrymandering thing, I mean, they're just trying to lock down like no chance of any kind of diversity in thought to ever be a thing. I mean, once they lock down 9 out of 10 localities, it's
and it's really crazy to me that they try to give off the impression that it's like a country split down the middle and it is a war and civil war is coming, and and it's just like, well, I mean, I mean, they're gerrymandering the voting. They're doing mail-in ballots. Like everything is one-sided. Now, Texas did do that as well. I'm not going to say, and I'm not cool with it when the right does it.
No,
but I mean,
it opens really up the door for this on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, dude, if you don't think they're working together to spit roast us and just implode this thing, it's so crazy to me. Just, and the whole narrative now is like, oh my God, the Democrats are going to kill in the midterms. You're like, and it's just, I wouldn't doubt it, because this country is just full of just uninformed. I hate saying idiots because I love where I'm from, but if you voted Republican and now 2 years later you're voting Democrat after you just voted Republican because you hated the Democrats 2 years ago, I mean, it's just literally emotional damage at this point, and you have an inability to actually have very nuanced intellectual thoughts, and you're just pro wrestling at this point. I mean, it's kind of shocking to me. I don't know what's real, what's not real, but
I mean, I think it's as simple as looking at trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
On a national level. I mean, they inflict trauma on us by the media to where we have no idea whether we're coming or going, and we all think that we all hate each other, when really in the real world we're all walking around being polite for one another. I heard somebody say the other day, I go into like Wawa every day and I see the green-haired liberal girl hold the door open for the old like boomer, clearly MAGA guy. Like in daily life, none of us are at each other's throats. It's social media, and it's what the control structure shoves down our throat, and then
I think it's
somehow believe it in the back of our head
100%,
without the physical proof of everyday life being completely different.
What I need to find out is how is this narrative being pushed when supposedly nobody is watching the mainstream media?
College.
Oh yeah, good point, Johnny.
Campuses. And I'm going to talk to you today about the beginning of the college university system, sort of in America, and I believe it was an original Masonic control structure. At least the well, you'll see once we get into it.
No, I'm into it. The final thought on the divide is like, I think we would be in such a better place if America, and this is going to sound like a really crazy statement, but if it was more like Austin. Johnny, you remember we were in Austin together. It's just there's super progressives and there's super conservatives, and they just live together. And it is, regardless of whatever you think of the comedy scene out there, it's a very open-minded comedy scene. Everyone can talk about anything they want to, and everyone just gets along. And if the country could be that, it will go a lot farther. But everyone is on every, like, this whole stuff. I just watched this video on doom scrolling about how 50% of women are on SSRIs, and how it blocks empathy and the ability to love. I mean, everyone's on fucking some cuckoo pills. Yeah. And it's the chemicals are just shish kebabbing us. And so it's going to be really hard to get anybody to even get along with each other. I mean, it's over 600 products that are sold over the counter have a chemical in it that blocks empathy.
Now add birth control to all that.
Oh, dude, SSRIs and birth control, you are a walking serial killer. It's like crazy to me. All right, so let's get into it, dude. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say. You want stuff? Let's go. Let's go. You know, just to preface what we're about to talk about. I love hearing everybody tell us what the country was founded on. My favorite thing is like Netanyahu's like the United States, it was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and then you have other people, it's founded on Christian values. I'm like, it was founded on Freemason values, man. That's really what I think it's. It was full-on Freemasonry, dude.
100%, and Masonry being the delivery system for, and I know you'll love this. This is one of your favorites: Baal and Queen of Heaven worship.
Bro, oh my God, bro. Oh my God. I just real quick, I'm sorry, that must shut the fuck up. Yeah. So I watched this video on the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah.
We'll hit on that too.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't want to get too much into it. Like, if you become a master at the Kabbalah, you're literally called like a ball something. It's like it's the term ball washer. I don't know what it is, but it's there. And it's like, oh my God, bro, it's so deep. All right, I'm gonna shut up. You can go. Everyone's screaming at me right now. Shut up, Sam. Let him talk.
It's the show, man.
Yeah, it is.
It wouldn't feel right, like a real appearance on Tinfoil Hat, if you didn't interrupt me every now and again. I need to get one of you throwing your head back and yelling, God. So interesting.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And I'll be happy. So this kind of presentation is a what I kind of see a lot is people claiming that the elites, and I think rightfully so, claiming that the elites are into Baal worship and this kind of sacred divine feminine worship. But what they don't, they explain it and do presentations sort of in starts and fits, right? This little portion of how it came out of the Levant and then affected, maybe Greece or Egypt and then this assumption, because we see the evidence of it in our monuments, in our government, in the influence of Freemasonry in this country. We do see the evidence of it, but I've never really seen anybody take Masonry in modern day United States and then follow it like a direct line. And what I think I've been able to come up with my research is at least a circumstantial, in parts, a very direct, clear, provable line from maybe this cult to this cult to this cult. Then it might get a little bit obscure, but then it picks back up again.
Well, we're all about the obscure, dude.
So, but I'm trying in this presentation, I'm sort of trying to make a direct connection. And with that, just to start off, I don't believe that the Baal and that kind of sacred feminine Queen of Heaven, like veneration or worship, are just mere sort of Canaanite deities, made up. I believe, because I come from a Christian worldview, that this goes back to the beginning, and you've got the God, the creator God of Christianity, the Abrahamic God, and then you have fallen angels and Nephilim. And as crazy as that sometimes can come off, I really do think it's as simple as that. And you have a lot of people, making excuses for this cult or this type of worship or this religion or whatever. And it's almost identical to another cult or method of worship or culture that is clearly connected to early Canaanite deities. So again, I don't believe they're mere Canaanite deities. I think they're the venerated fallen angels and their Nephilim offspring who taught forbidden knowledge, mated with human women, spawning the pre-flood giant tyrants who God ultimately sent the flood to destroy. Very that kind of Gary Wayne track,
Yeah.
So we know that Genesis states they were in the land in the days of Noah, and then also afterwards, possibly a second incursion. The history of that has kind of been lost in time. You can pick up pieces and parts through some of the apocryphal texts, or the theory that I kind of identify with is that these wives of the sons of Noah biblically, it said that God sent the flood to wipe out everything, basically, other than the direct descendants and family of Noah, because it specifically says that everything on earth was corrupted. So all blood on earth except for that family, that chosen family, was corrupted,
which is really creepy when you think about what happened with the vaccine.
100%.
And what they might have done to our DNA.
Yeah, I stayed away from it, thank God. I was just being a weird conspiracy guy, and it worked out. For the first time, it worked out for me really well.
I can't tell you how many people, young people, are getting cancer right now. It's so crazy to me.
I personally know 3 or 4 people, healthy mid-20s, who took the vaccine and now have lifelong heart conditions out of nowhere. Like within a year, within 2 years, they have crazy heart conditions. So just to get it out of the way, I believe that kind of Nephilim bloodline kind of made its way through the flood, through the wives of the sons of Noah. But then again,
hold on, you think that the bloodline that God saved actually had corrupted?
Well, I think he specifically, it says he said that he chose Noah and his family. It doesn't specifically say the people who, if everything in the world was corrupted except for Noah and his direct lineage, then the wives of his sons, there's a possibility that they were corrupted as well, and they came on as well.
Beyond wow, I didn't even think about that. That's super interesting.
Also, you have the you have the part of it too, that where in the original Hebrew, the portion of Genesis that says that the world was flooded, that's a mistranslation. The word in Hebrew that they use to say world, or that we translate into earth, and make us think that it was the entire world, is actually a word that means a portion of land. And so we do know that there was a large flood. We can see that in the geological record and whatnot, but there is quite possibly places on Earth that didn't get flooded at all. And so that's an interesting twist and possibility to it as well. In everywhere else in the Bible, when they're referring to the world, the entirety of creation, they use one word, but in Genesis, when they talk about what was flooded, they use specifically a Hebrew word that means a portion of land. It could be a massive portion of land.
It's not everything. There's a little bit missing. They could have missed a Nephilim. Yeah.
But I think it's neither here nor there, because whether or not there were Nephilim afterwards that people ended up worshiping, or you end up at the end of the flood and the Canaanite peoples are cursed because of what happened with Noah and one of his sons. Ham sees his father's nakedness, which again, you read further on down the line in the Bible, and it actually explains the euphemism of seeing someone's nakedness, and it's adultery. It's banging that guy's wife. And so what you have is the flood's done, they're off the boat, and then all of a sudden Ham, Noah's son, sees his father's nakedness. I don't know about you, but every time I heard that growing up in church, I was like, well, geez, it seems awful gnarly for God to curse all subsequent peoples from that line because the dude walked in and saw his dad's ass, you know. You read a little bit further along and you find out that was a euphemism for banging somebody's wife. Now, if you read some of the apocryphal text, there is some evidence that says that Noah's original wife died and that he took on a new wife, and that could explain, again, Nephilim bloodline. Or it could be just as simple as, you know, Ham doing something gnarly, and then his son was Canaan, and so it cursed from Canaan on, and then we end up with the Canaanite tribes. Now, the Canaanite tribes are the people that God is sending forward to wipe out. It's the part that everybody points to who wants to say, well, if it's a loving God, why would he kill all these people?
Right.
Read the descriptions of these people. They were terrifying non-human people doing terrifying non-human.
That is 100% true, ritual. Dude, and that's what nobody ever taught. You're not talking about human beings there. You're talking about like just straight up demons, dude.
Dark, very dark, right? So the Canaanite tribes are cursed, and this is what I was saying. I think it's neither here nor there. There were either Nephilim on the earth after the flood, which it actually says in the Bible that they were there before and after the flood, or these were just peoples who had a memory of the flood. They're now cursed, so they're outside of this relationship with God, and they need to worship something. They need to gain power from something, and they start worshiping the memory of these fallen angels who were on earth before the flood. Which there is some later I don't know if you would call it precedent if it happened down the road, but if you look at how Kabbalah came along, that literally Kabbalah comes along after the temple is destroyed, and the Hebrews have no way to atone for sin, because there's no atonement for sin without the shedding of blood, right? Well, their temple is gone and they can't atone for their sin, so that's when they start dipping their toes into Babylonian Kabbalah. And it literally would be the equivalent of, say, the evangelical Christian, for some reason, in some way, you can't be saved anymore because something happens to some physical thing. If that was part of the religion, there's no longer a way to be saved. So we dipped our toes into voodoo. I mean, Kabbalah is as dark as that, but
it is crazy. Hey guys, the world economy is in chaos, and there's one way to stabilize your money, and that is precious metals. You guys got to get into the precious metals game, okay? But Sam, it's so expensive. Not with Wolfpack Gold. You can get it sent to your house for as little as $50 a month. Let me tell you about Wolfpack Gold and Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver has been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all things precious metal. Veteran owned and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small, and you can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. And remember, in the world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. Guys, I just every day I get a bill from my wireless carrier, and it's more money every time. If you're tired of seeing that, there's one place you gotta go, and that's our good friends at Mint Mobile. All right, let me tell you about Mint Mobile. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, traditional big wireless carriers also seem to like to keep my money too, okay? After years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up with the crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks that actually cost me more in the long run, and I switched to Mint Mobile.
Stop overpaying for wireless just because that's how it's always been. Mint exists purely to fix that. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Bring your own phone and number, activate via eSIM in minutes, and start saving immediately. No long-term contracts, no hassle. Ditch the overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month.
It's a great way to save money on your wireless program. What do you think, Johnny?
Wireless is normally just a total ripoff, and Mint has kind of cut to the heart of that with this $15 a month deal. It's the best value in wireless.
Johnny, you sound excited about it.
I'm thoroughly intrigued by this offer, and I'm going to take them up on it right now.
If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/tinfoil. That's mintmobile.com/tinfoil.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 gigabyte plan, required equivalent of $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
I watched this video on the Kabbalah, and this guy Lee Sexton broke it all down. He's a really great disseminator. I want to get him on the show. He's a great disseminator of information. Bro, what is in the Kabbalah is so insane. And to think this is what the elites worship.
Well, and to think it's what they kind of push onto us as if it's just a regular part of being a Jewish person. Like, I think that it's been a slow drip into normalizing Kabbalah as being part of Judaism, but it's not. It's literally black magic that they turned to once they were faced with the fact that they had no way to atone for their sins. That, along with the creepy stuff in the Talmud, and you have a religion totally divided, but it's a religion that's divided that they put forth to us as if they're not.
And it's a very tribal religion.
Yeah.
And they defend all. It's very crazy because if you're like, it's not Jews, it's these fucking Kabbalah sorcerers. And nobody, it's so nuanced. Most people can't even get into that. They can't even understand it. And it's like, you know, when you learn about this shit, you see the world in a completely different way. And it's something that you just can't talk to people, regular people. We can have an honest conversation here, and everyone can be cool, have it understand what we're talking about. If you bring this out to the regular world, what's on there, their minds just shut down. It's like, if you watch how everything is done, if you watch why they have no problems with just annihilating the World Trade Center, and people not being totally okay with not calling anybody in the office and telling them that something's going to happen. And they have no problems with doing that. I mean, once you start to understand this shit, it's a real, like, I've come to the conclusion, Ernie, that the Big Bang Theory comes from the Great Shattering. That's where basically they got the idea from. And yes, the Big Bang Theory was put forward by a fucking Catholic priest who's most likely a Jesuit. Okay.
Right.
And I mean, and when you get into like why they think they're the chosen people, and it's always about Jesus's bloodline, that Jesus from their bloodline. Okay, I'll shut up about it. But, I mean,
dude, you're good.
No.
But you're hitting on all this stuff, so it's,
dude. It's like, it's absolutely, if people and then when you really discover this, Johnny, did you ever watch the video I sent you?
Yes, I haven't finished it yet because I was trying to watch it while falling asleep, and I was like, so no, not yet. But
it's crazy, dude. So my opinion, okay, are you going to talk about Chosen Ones? Do you have anything about that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Specifically, how it relates to America and Freemasons and all the way back to the
okay, I'll shut up. Okay,
it's a pretty all-encompassing. I'll have to skip. There's so much minutia in between. I'm literally gonna show a line of descendancy of this kind of Baal worship from the beginning of time, where we are now, to where we physically are now, which is modern day. So my overall thesis, and it's kind of long, so just bear with me through it real quick. But that's that Baal and Queen of Heaven worship made it to America via the Royal Stuart bloodline. I theorize that the founding of the colonies, facilitated under King James via Sir Francis Bacon, and the subsequent century of Stuart rule constitutes a strategy to preserve and rebrand their bloodline in the new world that traces back from the Stuarts through to the Merovingians and back to the beginnings of the tribe of Sidon, or the Sidonians, who were, Sidon was the son of Canaan. And it's the Sidonians are what turned into the Phoenicians, and which the Phoenicians are the one who spread it out. So from the beginnings of the tribe of Sidon, or the Sidonians, monarchical bloodline that was fraught with assassination, overthrows, exiles, revolutions, depositions in each and every step of their climb up through the ages. I believe there is an unbroken tradition of Canaanite deity worship, or at the very least veneration, that you can follow through the female line, which is interesting because I'm talking about the Stuarts who founded America, King James being the first Stuart English king, all the way back to the Sidonians of the Levant, right? Now, if you try to follow, and really, as far as genealogy goes, you can only kind of make it back to the 500s and the Gaulish Franks and the Merovingian line. But if you follow from the Stuarts all the way back to the like 3, 4, and 500s, there is a direct provable lineage from the Stuarts to the Merovingians, but you have to follow the female side, which I think it's interesting that culturally we only kind of recognize a descendancy through the male line. And I think that's obfuscation, especially when you're talking about a people who venerate the divine feminine. This is a goddess worshiping culture. At least half of that kind of culture is very in tune with the divine feminine, the Sophia, the feminine side of the ball, Queen of Heaven. But you can find that line through the female line. So through the female line, starting at the Stuarts in America, which I believe today is represented by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and flowing back through the Plantagenets to the Carolinians to the Merovingians to the Sicambrian Franks to the Scythian nomads, back to the Punic migrants of Greece to the Phoenicians, who were the ones who set up the Baal and Queen of Heaven worship as Osiris and Iris in Egypt, by way of migration from the Levant to the original Canaanite tribes. Sorry, my little.
No, I love this shit, dude.
All right.
All this shit. This is my favorite shit.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick.
Hey, while he's looking to do that, go to samtripoli.com, go to events. You can get my dates. I'm going to be in Hamilton, going to be in Toronto. Then I'm going to be other places. Oh, here we go. Go samtripoli.com. Let's see if you can actually hit. Nope. There we go. Bang. Hamilton, Toronto, Dallas, Fort Worth, Huntington Beach. And then the live comedy tape May 22nd. If they let me do anything close to what I want to do, I'm telling you, this set's going to be pure murder, okay? Albuquerque, the Fountains episode is Austin, sold out, but there is an after party. I'm setting it up right now. Joke World in St. Petersburg, Florida, Lawrence, Kansas, and then closing out in Tulsa. Skankfest, we're back, and then Austin, okay? So, yeah, thank you guys. Go to samtripoli.com. Check out the dates. Okay, Here we go. We're in it.
All right. So what you're seeing on the screen here, I just went through why I believe that this is all connected from the Stuarts all the way back to the Canaanites. And the reason what got me on this line of thinking was I found this. So over to the left-hand side of your screen, this triangle here represents the original historic campus of William and Mary. You can kind of see here. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can kind of see here where this road bumps out. The oldest maps of Williamsburg, this road does not bump out. That's a later thing. This is a perfect triangle pyramid, which just so happens to be the exact original land purchased and planned for the original campus of William and Mary, which consisted of just this building right here, which is the Sir Christopher Wren building, named after the guy who started the Royal Society and was the kind of precursor for what the coming out party of Freemasonry. He was the guy, the architect and designer picked to rebuild London after the Great Fire of 1666. Anyway, this piece of land is an exact encode of the Great Pyramid of Giza. In that from the apex down to the bottom here is a perfect measurement for one of the corner sides of the Great Pyramid. The base is the exact measurement of the base of the pyramid. But what's really interesting is right up here at the apex, okay, is the start of Duke of Gloucester Street, which is the start of what they call the New Jerusalem, which is this idea of city planning that has, kind of mystery school, Freemasonic, Rosicrucian ideals attached to it. And it's how a lot of these cities and towns were built early on by adepts, right? When they place certain things in certain places, aligned to certain things. So right here where this apex ends, at the very tip top, that's right where Duke of Gloucester Street starts. Okay. But what's even more interesting about this is that if you can see my cursor, I come down from that apex just a little bit. The actual grass. So this is a road. This is like a 5-way yield. It makes no sense. It's called Confusion Corner. It's in my hometown of Williamsburg, Virginia. It's never changed. But actually, if I come down a little bit, this is where the actual grass starts and the like sidewalk in the start of the campus of William and Mary. So you've got this portion here from where the grass is through the intersection to where Duke of Gloucester Street starts. These are 3 of the oldest roads in the country, if not the oldest roads in the country. You've got Duke of Gloucester Street, which is where Williamsburg and all the other wild kind of esoteric placements of buildings sits. And then you have this is Richmond Road here, which goes all the way to the second settlement from the second settlement in Virginia. It was Richmond. So this goes all the way from this corner all the way to Richmond, Virginia. And then you have from the apex down this road here is called Jamestown Road, and it goes directly to the original settlement of Jamestown. Now, what's really interesting is, like I said, the apex that I have here starts at Duke of Gloucester Street, but really the land ends right here. But the measurements, if you start them here, like you were to cut off this top cap, those are the exact measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza without its capstone, which we all know doesn't have a capstone. Okay. But if you measure it from the apex, that's the exact measurements with the capstone. So they already knew. Now, what makes it interesting is that this is the oldest college built in the oldest colony in this country. It was facilitated by a Scottish official of the Anglican Church, Reverend James Blair, a Scotsman, and placed on this specific piece of land by the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia at the time. His name was Francis Nicholson. That man, I could go on for days about his upbringing and his career. He was the governor. He started off as just a simple soldier, right? It would appear that he started off as a simple soldier who then became the lieutenant governor of Virginia, the governor of Virginia, the governor of Maryland. He was the city planner of Williamsburg and of Annapolis, Maryland, which is filled with esoteric symbolism and layouts. He was the lieutenant and then governor of the New England colony. Before he became the Virginia governor. Interestingly enough, the guy who became the governor directly after him, when he was the governor, was just a sailor who went and found all the silver on the Concepcion shipwreck down in the Caribbean, brought some of it back to England, and then supposedly hid the rest of it away on Oak Island. And Oak Island will be interesting with all of this at the end of this slide. But Francis Nicholson, crazy interesting dude. That last name of that family, super involved in Marie Bauer Hall, Manly P. Hall's wife's research into a possible Baconian vault just up the street from this pyramid, underneath the church, that the Reverend James Blair, the other guy who decided on this being where the college would sit, where he was the reverend there. Anyway, Francis Nicholson, he also just so happened to be widely regarded the illegitimate son of the Duke of Bolton. Now, the Duke of Bolton, that family name is actually the Paulet family. That same family was responsible for the imprisonment of the mother of King James I, Mary, Queen of Scots. So while Queen Elizabeth wanted to keep Mary, Queen of Scots, from overthrowing the English government and installing herself as the very first Stuart queen, or monarch of England, the person that they tapped to basically keep her locked up in the Bolton Castle was a guy named Amias Paulet. Okay, and then the Duke of Bolton, 100 years later, also descendant of Amias Paulet. Also, that guy Amias Paulet was the ambassador to the European continent for England. He's the one who chaperoned Sir Francis Bacon as a 16, 17-year-old on his only trip off the British
I'm
Isles
in the room
to Europe. So, and that trip from for Francis Bacon over to the continent, many have theorized are the basis and the education and the privileged information needed for him to be able to set so many of the Shakespeare plays in these countries and in these.
Hold on. Are you trying to say? Are you someone that believes Francis Bacon wrote all Shakespeare?
100%. And I'll stop my share right now because I'll come back to it with some other layouts and whatnot. But
have you ever heard that the fittest flat earther thinks I'm Sir Francis Bacon?
Yeah, I've seen that guy. That guy's such a clown.
Dude, what a downgrade, huh? I mean, to go from that to the guy who flunked first grade and has man tits.
Yeah, the idea that's where it falls apart. If he also believes that Francis Bacon wrote Shakespeare and that it's over. I am 100% on the. Oh, go ahead, XG man. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I didn't think that Sam would have ever been the guy to write Shakespeare. I would when I was reading something, I
can't even write.
Sam right. Huh?
I just got into a fight with ChatGPT because it wouldn't write the description for the Stu Peters show. It's like, this is hateful. I go, I haven't mentioned anybody. What are you talking about?
Funny.
You're inferring everything. Well, I'm like, write it.
You got to use Grok, dude, for that stuff. ChatGPT gets so queeny whenever you try to even approach something edgy.
So, just because, again, my research runs off on all these like tendrils and kind of octopus legs. And so there's a big part of my research that goes down the whole Francis Bacon thing, because I do think he's the linchpin between modern day and the Stuart dynasty and then what came before. And he's kind of the distillation of the mystery schools into scientism and the empirical method. So I think he took basically what he was one of the most brilliant people to ever walk the face of the planet. He was in Cambridge by 12 years old. He left by like 14 or 15, was back by like 14 or 15 teaching at Cambridge. They said by the age of 12, he had read everything in print in like 3 or 4 different languages. I believe that he is the son of Queen Elizabeth. I believe that he was probably, not probably, but definitely had the biggest right to the throne. I believe that in order to keep herself safe, because she was a woman and they had deposed so many people, and Henry VIII, her dad, had cut off so many wives' heads, and then different people had pushed her out, pushed her sister, Mary, Queen of Scots, in there. I believe her whole reason for actually having a baby and then keeping the fact that he was her child under wraps was that that's a weakness. And all they'd have to do at that point, anybody who wanted to take over the throne of England, is kill her off, raise Francis Bacon up as however they wanted to, and steer him in any way that they wanted to. And then there'd be no reason to keep her around. And that had been happening within the Plantagenet and Merovingian.
It's Game of Thrones, dude.
100%.
Straight up Game of Thrones, dude.
100%.
I read a book by the Freemasons. It's this legend that this guy left this book in this. He was staying at a tavern one night or some kind of inn, and he left a book that broke down everything the Jesuits were doing, and the amount of royals that the Jesuits had assassinated was insanity, dude.
And that really kicks off and gets really bloody in the south of France, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Well, just in France in general, between kind of the Huguenots, and that's got ties into on one of the side or the other, back into the Cathars and the Gnostics and whatnot. And I believe the Gnostics are just a sort of cloaking of the mystery schools and these Canaanite religions. But Anyway, I just wanted to get the out of the way that I think that Francis Bacon was brilliant. I also think that he was dark.
Thank you.
I also think that he wrote Shakespeare not by himself, but he had a literary society that he referred to as his good pens. Were also referred to as the Society of Athena, who got their name from Athena because she was the patron kind of muse of the literary society, sort of this French style like salon culture. In that it was not necessarily a secret society, but a secret literary society where they could get together, they could write things, they could talk about things, they could debate things, discuss things that would normally get you, imprisoned or possibly even hanged for heresy. And they got their name from Athena because that was their patron muse, and Athena was known to wear her helmet and shake her spear of knowledge in the face of the beast of ignorance. And so when you break that down into William or Wilhelm, that literally means helmet, Shakespeare. So the woman who wore the helmet, or the goddess who wore the helmet and shook her spear, is William Shakespeare.
Whoa!
And I can get into all the reasons that anyone who thinks that William Shakespeare of Stratford upon Avon had anything to do with the writing of the plays, other than being a part-time actor and minority owner in one of the theaters and just the kind of scapegoat for these guys, is crazy. I mean, there's no evidence that William Shakespeare of Stratford upon Avon ever was able to read. His parents couldn't read. His wife couldn't read. He never taught his kids to read. In his will, he leaves his second best bed to his wife. He was known in Stratford upon Avon as being a dick. They went through a time of drought after he had left London and came home, and he hoarded up all the grain in town and wouldn't give any to anybody. And actually, that famous bust that you always see above his memorial in Stratford upon Avon is him holding a quill with a sheath of papers in front of him, like supposedly writing. They've actually found the original work order of that bust. And then originally he was not holding a quill and writing anything. He was holding a sack of grain, because the people who created the bust were poking at him for being a dick when he was alive and holding all the town's grain. And it wasn't until 100 years later that bust was changed. And that it wasn't until 100 years later that the entire Shakespeare is God and the writer of all this stuff happened. And funny enough, where this overlaps with my hometown of Williamsburg is that the Rockefellers are the ones who came into Williamsburg and turned it into the plastic living museum of the colonial era that it is today. Before the 1920s, and before Marie Bauer Hall, Manly P. Hall's wife, wrote a book claiming that there was a Baconian Shakespearean vault, that she had decoded some tombstones and some Shakespearean works and some Baconian works, that she could pinpoint the location of a Baconian vault underneath the old church of Bruton Parish. That at that time, Williamsburg was a podunk, rundown southern town. Duke of Gloucester Street had like greasy spoon diners and like places to get your oil change on it. It was totally run down. And the capital had long since moved to Richmond. And right around the time she claims that this Baconian Freemasonic vault exists, and she's doing this research, the Rockefellers swoop in, buy up the whole town, kick everyone out of their homes, and create a living museum that you are no longer allowed to do a archaeological dig on, one of the most historical places in the whole country. You cannot do an archaeological dig in that town without the express written consent of the Rockefeller Foundation. I grew up in that town. I grew up next door to the people who grew up next door to the Rockefellers attorney who lives on site. There's always a Rockefeller attorney in Williamsburg at all times. I forgot where I was going with this, but so this in the 1920s, when the Rockefellers come and do that to Williamsburg because of hearing of this strange Masonic vault or whatever. Do you know where they came from to do that? Where they were at at the time doing the exact same thing.
Where?
They were Stratford upon Avon, the town that this William Shakespeare guy was. So they literally left Stratford upon Avon, where they were creating the booming tourist trap that Stratford upon Avon is, and shaping the history of Shakespeare in that town. And then they leave there to come to Williamsburg and renovate the town and turn it into a museum upon hearing about this Shakespearean Baconian possibility of a vault that's in Williamsburg.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Helix Sleep. Listen, we've been telling you about them for years, and we still love them, okay? Their mattresses are amazing, the most comfortable in the business. Dude, whether you like it super soft, super firm, they got you, okay? I used to sleep on a stone slab. That's how bad my mattress was before. But you know what Helix said? Go on the website, fill out this really quick quiz, and we'll set you up with the perfect mattress for you, okay? And you know what I like? Midnight Lux. Holla at your boy. That's what we're doing. We're howling at your boy, okay? That's why I love it. Quick, easy. I mean, dude, my sleep went from rolling, tossing, and turning to sleeping like a wee little baby, okay? A wee little baby. It instantly, as soon as I got my mattress, my sleep improved, okay? I have certain issues, like when I sleep, I need to sleep on my side, turn to the side. I mean, I like it comfortable. That's just me, okay? It was so much better once I got my mattress, okay? And they have a study that found around 82% of those involved saw an increase in the deep sleep cycle sleeping on Helix mattress. I mean, come on now, all right? You get free shipping and seamless delivery. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US, okay? They have 120 night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty. And you know what? They got the happy with Helix guarantee. Rest easy with seamless returns and exchange. The Happy with Helix guarantee offers a risk-free, customer-first experience designed to ensure you're completely satisfied with your new mattress, and they are award-winning. Okay, Helix is the most award-winning mattress brand, tested and reviewed by experts like Forbes and Wired. So here's what's happening. Okay, just go to helixsleep.com/tinfoil and they got the spring savings event. 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/tinfoil for 20% off site-wide with their spring saving event. And that's one more time. It's helixsleep.com/tinfoil. And we thank them for sponsoring the show.
Okay. That's kind of here nor there. That kind of takes care of like the weird stuff with Williamsburg, the Rockefeller, Shakespeare, Bacon. Not to mention also just a side note, in 1676, you have a direct descendant of Francis Bacon, Nathaniel Bacon, had the exact same career track as Sir Francis Bacon in England, went to the same schools, went to the same law school, married a noblewoman, and then after that up and gets a hair up his ass and decides he's moving to nowhere colony of Virginia to grow tobacco and corn. And within 2 years, he gets here in 1674. Within 2 years, he takes over the entire government, leads a revolution, and takes over the entire government, has all the gentry and rich planter class hiding in the Chesapeake Bay on ships, and then he gets dysentery and craps himself to death. Otherwise, I do believe we would have seen a American Revolution in 1676 instead of 1776. I believe in some way, shape, or form that might have been an effort to break away America from England 100 years before we actually did it. And when you look at the Stuart dynasty and the troubles that they were having in the 1660s, 1650s, it makes a lot of sense. If you believe, like I believe, that the Stuarts are the reason that we broke away from England, and that this is really, America is really just a breakaway civilization for the Stuarts. So,
and who are the Stuarts?
The Stuarts are, you remember Robert the Bruce from the Braveheart movie?
Yeah.
The guy who betrays Mel Gibson and then comes back and then later on becomes king. So that so the Stuarts come from the Sinclairs. The Sinclairs are the people who supposedly took the Knights Templar in and protected them after the King of France and the Pope outlawed them in 1307. Also interesting enough, exactly 300 years from 1307, when the Templars are outlawed, is when 300 years later, 1607, is when we come over here and start this. I believe the first Stuart king comes over here and begins what I think became a breakaway civilization for the bloodline of the Stuarts there. So the Stuarts come from the Sinclairs. The Sinclairs were, there's all kinds of stories about the Sinclairs making it to North America in like the 1300s. The Sinclairs are the ones who aided and abetted the Templars. The Sinclairs are the ones who created Rosslyn Chapel, the incredibly un-Christian chapel in Scotland that contains all of the symbolism all over its walls of the Templars and all the mystery schools, including tobacco and corn that was never found anywhere in Europe, but was only found in America, but was carved into walls in Rosslyn Chapel in the I believe it was 1400s.
Whoa.
So
do you have any theory? Do you have any thoughts on that? America was way more established when people got here. There was a lot more going on here than they want us to believe, whether it was the Moors of Florida and all that stuff, that hidden history stuff.
So I think that it's so covered that it's really hard, other than just speculation. I think I definitely think there were some strange things going on with the Native Americans. I do believe that they had been contacted way earlier on, and that there was some sort of incursion of Europeans into the Native American tribes. I believe that the Templars made it here. I believe that the Vikings made it here. I do believe the Moors made it here. But I think earlier than everybody, I think the Phoenicians, the very, very early Canaanite tribe, made it over here at some point. And I think that's where you see the Proto-Hebrew that they found engraved out west. I think that's where some of the stories of the Egyptian carvings and statues and things found in the Grand Canyon, I think that's where that comes from. I mean, they were a seagoing people, and they had a reason to get the heck out of the Levant and go set up somewhere. And that's because King David and the rest of the Hebrews were the God-fearing Hebrews were trying to take them out. So going off of the pyramid that I just showed you, right? That's what began my interest in the college, the colony, and the figures involved in in both of their foundings. What I think I found was a college and a colony built and stewarded and imbued with symbolism right up until present day. I think this continues to go on in Williamsburg, but more specifically at the College of William and Mary, by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which I believe is the most recent iteration of the Stuart bloodline, the bloodline, blah, 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 that supposedly traces its origins back to a child bore by Mary Magdalene and fathered by Jesus of Nazareth, right? So that is where the Stuarts get their divine right to rule. The Stuarts trace their lineage through the female line all the way back to the Merovingians. The Merovingians were a pagan. They were originally a pagan monarchical line in Francia, in France, right? And some of the Celtic cultures and Gaul, everything was kind of borders were a little bit different back then. So you have Germanic influence, you have Eurasian steppe influence, and this whittles down and creates what becomes the Merovingians, who started off pagan, but then as the Christian empire moved forward, they kind of adopt some parts of Christianity, and then they shove some of their pagan ideas into Christianity as well. But the way that they held on to power for so long is they came up with the story that Mary Magdalene left the Holy Land after Jesus's death, pregnant with his child, and ended up all the way in France and hid in a cave around Marseille, France, as a hermit preaching the gospel, right? That's the Magdalene and the cult of the Magdalene culture that existed in France at that time. And because they trace their lineage. These Merovingian kings trace their lineage to Mary Magdalene and this supposed son of Christ. That's where the divine right to rule comes from. We can rule and we should have power over you because we come from God, right? So that's where the Stuarts later on down the road continue this divine right to rule. But I believe it goes further than the Merovingians and that story. I think that is an obfuscation of what they really came from, which was a Phoenician, Canaanite, Baal, and Queen of Heaven worshiping peoples. And I'll show you real quick. So I'm going to share my screen again. And what I'm going to show you is all right. Can you see my screen now?
No.
No. Okay, I did that wrong. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm sharing my screen, going back to my tinfoil hat presentation, and we're back to the pyramids I just showed you. So what I'm going to show you is this. So after I measured this like a psychopath on a college campus with a measuring wheel, walking around and making sure that the measurements of this original historic campus were that of the Giza, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and they were. Then I searched for a couple of years to figure out what that meant. And so I drew a line going down the original, like I said, this street bumps out, but it didn't used to. Going down the original Jamestown road, coming up through the apex. And I was looking all over in America to see what it hit, but it pretty quickly goes out into the Atlantic. And so I kept following it and kept following it and kept following it. And what happens is it goes all the way across the globe and it lands directly on the apex of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the exact pyramid.
Oh my God.
That piece of land shows. Now, you're talking about a piece of land that was created to put this college on by a guy named Francis Nicholson, who was the illegitimate son of a guy who was the chaperone of Francis Bacon. So some of this information isn't known. Like there wasn't, at that time, 1600s, there wasn't a ton known about Giza. But in particular, Francis Nicholson was actually stationed as an early army soldier in North Africa. Okay, before he comes over here. So like I said, it lands right on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But not only does it land on top of the Great Pyramid of Giza, but you see my cursor here. You see how this line, and it bends because it's going up, not because I bent it to, but it's going up in elevation. So it kind of looks like it has a bend, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
But not only does it land right on the Great Pyramid of Giza, but it runs right up the exact line that it starts off on the pyramid back in.
Damn.
And so what's crazy too is that, I can put this line and I can
just real quick. Yeah. So that people who are listening understand what we're looking at. So he's taking a line from the side of the
William and Mary Pyramid is what I call
pyramid. We'll call it the William Mary Pyramid, which is part of William Mary's campus. And he's drawn a line that goes straight up through the street all the way across Earth to the tip of the Giza pyramid. Correct. And it lines up perfectly.
And these are what's known as ley lines, and forever they have been lining important monuments and places and towns and cities up on specific lines. There's more stuff on this line that is going to go along with things that I've already talked about, and I think will blow your mind as well. But this is not just random happenstance. I even ran this through AI to tell me what the odds of a piece of land that magically is the exact measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza would then point exactly to the Great Pyramid of Giza. And Grok, ChatGPT, and a couple of other ones literally stopped and was like, okay, the numbers to the 1 in however many billion a chance that is. All of them stopped and was like, I can't even give you the number. It's too big of a number So it stopped me. So this is not happenstance. If you take the end of this line and put it over here on this pyramid, it does not make the perfect pyramid back in Williamsburg. It's off. So it is a piece of land encoded with the measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza that literally points to the Great Pyramid of Giza. All right. So what I did from that point on, as I started trying to figure out why a piece of land in my hometown almost undeniably points straight to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Having looked into the Masons for years, knowing their affinity for Egyptian symbolism and almost worship of the phallic symbolism of obelisks, pillars, I figured drilling down into that, starting kind of in Egypt, would be helpful. And that's where I discovered this unbroken passing on of the ball and Queen of Heaven symbolism from the Levant into Egypt. That's kind of where I see that it starts and takes hold the strongest early on. You're talking BC times. And that's where it starts and then spreads through the Mediterranean. So we're looking at the Mediterranean here, and you can see my line running down here at the bottom right. It's running through France, specifically Marseille. We'll come back to that. It's very interesting. It runs through the island of Corsica, down at the bottom of the boot of Italy, right past Athens and some Grecian islands, and then goes right up there to Giza. Okay. Now, what is absolutely crazy is that when, all right, did I unshare?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what's crazy is when you start looking at the ball and Queen of Heaven worship and veneration, what you see is all those places on my line. The ball and Queen of Heaven worship runs through those from the Levant to Egypt, and then the Phoenicians push all that stuff up through. And the way it is depicted or distilled in the different cultures is obviously in the Levant. You've got Baal, characterized by bull, storm god worship, bull horns, holding a club, worshipped in sacred trees and poles in high places, demand of human sacrifice. Queen of Heaven in the Levant, back with the Canaanite tribes, fertility goddess, sacred trees or poles, flowers, snakes, birds. When it moves to Egypt, you get Seth, who then is a storm god worship. Bull depiction overlap with the cult of Apis, high place pillar elements. You've got then the Queen of Heaven turns into Asherah, which isn't even that far off. In the Canaanite cultures, the Queen of Heaven was Astarte. Once it makes it to Egypt, she turns into Asherah. Very close. Also Hathor, again, associated with those deities, sacred tree, fertility icon, offerings in high places. In Egypt, the actual titles of Baal and Astarte, they were still there. So they hadn't completely obfuscated them at that point. So that little stretch from the Levant over to Egypt, they were still using Baal and Astarte in a lot of places. So they were often adopted those names. But then later on, it turns into Asherah and Hathor. Right over there in Greece that we run right past, you have bull cult worship, thunderbolt depictions, storm god elements. Again, same as Baal, worshipped in sacred trees. Then in Greece, the Queen of Heaven, that ends up being Aphrodite, fertility, doves, snakes, pillars, trees. Up on the Eurasian steppe, which is a little bit of, excuse me, that's above where my line is, but it does, and you'll see how it comes in the Eurasian steppe. That's where the Scythians and the Sarmatians are. They have Tarhuna, storm god, which has a bull motif, thunder weapons. They've got Queen Tabidi, who is literally in the Scythian Sarmatian culture, is known as the Queen of Heaven. Winged animals, fertility. In Francia, you pre-Merovingian, so just before the Merovingians start and come up with their divine right to rule, you've got Donar, and then from their Germanic influence, you have Thor. Now, everywhere that I've just talked to you about, the Phoenicians made it there, okay, and they spread their gods and their people. So you're talking the Eurasian steppe, you're talking Greece, Egypt, all around the Mediterranean, in Italy. You know, they spread out like ticks, and they dug in, right? So in Francia, pre-Merovingian, you've got Donar, and then from the Germanic influence, which is also influenced by Phoenicians, you've got Thor, thunder god, again, hammer and club symbolism, sacred trees, again, bullhead symbolism, again. Then on the Queen of Heaven side, you've got Rosmerta, sacred trees, groves, fertility. And then on to, because my presentation ends with Scotland and the Stuarts, you've got the Scottish or Pictish tribes, which was the pagan tribes of Scotland early in time. You don't really have names of gods there, but they've found their gods and stuff depicted in what they call the symbol stones. And again, bulls, thunderstorm, pillars, standing stones. Then on the Queen of Heaven side, you've got the Kalish or Brigid. You've got the crone or mother, fertility cycles. Again, sacred trees or pillars, right? So I've already showed you the picture of the Mediterranean and kind of how the line goes through that. And kind of
this resonates with me because I think there's something that goes on with these ley lines that they're like energy amplifiers. And because if you study, again, going back to what we originally talked about, or we originally discussed, excuse me, which was MSNBC, why is there information everywhere? Johnny brought up colleges, which is true, but there's a lot of boomers that are into this narrative that the mainstream media is pushing, yet nobody watches it. And even though their representation is in fact I mean, their demographics I watch is boomer, but like, let's just say for the sake of ha ha laughter, that the No Kings got 8 million people watching went to these things, which I don't believe at all. But let's just say for the fun discussion that number is real, because they can't get close to that in any of their ratings. Not even close. They can barely get 1 million if they're lucky.
Right.
Yet they're saying 8 million people showed up. Gotcha. Okay. My theory is that these media outlets are positioned in ley line fucking checkpoints, like ley line pinpoints that amplifies what they're saying.
I can see
puts out to the universe.
From what I've learned about ley lines, specifically from Court Lindahl, which if you ever get a chance to get Court Lindahl on your show, you got to get him on there. He's incredible. He was actually an archaeologist in Williamsburg, Virginia. He's got his own podcast. He's been featured on Oak Island. I mean, he's a pretty incredible researcher.
What do you think the pyramids are?
Hold on, XG. He's making a point. Let him finish his point.
I thought he was done with the point.
No,
dude, I can check that off.
This guy and then end the then he's done. Hold on, dude.
I can check that. I can check that off of my tinfoil hat bucket list too. Sam yells at XG for interrupting. Dude, you go ahead. What do I think the pyramids are?
If they're in the ley lines, do you think they're just? I mean, obviously not just a temple for a king. Do you think they're a power plant? Do you think? I mean, Sam says they're like. I'm not for enough to send the media or whatever powers to everybody else. And
so I'm not sure, but I do believe that they are pre-flood. I believe that they were the original, possibly whatever you want to call Atlantis or this original civilization, which again, if you come from the worldview of a Christian worldview, you would have to pre-flood, you would have to put those types of monuments and buildings and stuff in the category of Nephilim built or Nephilim venerating people built. So I definitely think they encode a ton of the mystery religions symbolism, whether or not they're a power plant or there's this new guy who's got some really compelling evidence that they were like these chemical plants, or they were just monuments, or they were whatever, like the ziggurat of the one that they were building to try to reach heaven or whatever. I'm not totally sure. They're significant, and I think that we've pretty much lost why they're significant. And I don't think that any kind of modern scholarship really is able to explain it. And I think, and it might be all yes, and it might be all of those things. But yeah, what you're saying about the ley lines, though, yeah, I think that from what I've learned about them, that yes, they put things on these lines, and whether or not they produce energy or they create some sort of mystical reaction in our material world is irrelevant. The people who put them there believe that, and they put them there for that purpose, from what we can tell. But also, I think there's another purpose, and that's what you see in every mystery religion, and that's that they write their graffiti all over the face of the planet. They want they want a treasure map back to their origins, and I think that is one, to say, hey, we're the big swinging dicks in this situation. Look at what we've built, what we are. But also, it ensures that they knew that portions of the mystery religions would always, there would always be an adept of some sort out there. There would always be people studying this stuff. And in order to ensure continuity of their whatever ball worship or Queen of Heaven worship, or a timeline back to the origins of these early Canaanite cults, you put these things in place. And I mean, that's why, there's Freemasonic symbolism everywhere. It's for the adepts. It's for people in the know to be able to come around, notice what they're seeing, and being able to build onto it and create from there. And I think all that happened with me is that I had probably watched the Da Vinci Code or National Treasure too recently, and then stumbled onto the campus of William and Mary and said, wow, this is a strange triangle shaped piece of landscape. And then I found it pointed to Egypt. So all those cultures that I just went through and kind of showed how they shared, and the development of the Baal and Queen of Heaven worship was kind of pushed through the Mediterranean all the way into France by the Phoenicians, right? At a certain point, all of those tribal traditions, they reach a point when pagan culture starts to be threatened by this big new Christian empire. You're looking at, like, first, second, third century, all of a sudden the Holy Roman Empire comes along, and they've got the might of the Roman Empire behind them, and they're starting to move into all these pagan areas and take over. I think, you're talking early church fathers, so you're talking some good guys, and then you're also talking some pagan Christian pretending Romans and conquerors who are just conquering to conquer. But it's at this point that you see the Baal side of this drop off and go deep mystery school, right? The Baal worship side of the mystery schools kind of drops off and becomes super secretive and hidden. But at this point, this is when you see the Queen of Heaven side. It doesn't go away. It just transforms into Mother Mary and the Magdalene worship or veneration. You see that in Egypt. They start turning all the Black Madonna sculptures that they have into Marian shrines. And the Byzantine mystics in Greece start to mask Venus worship as veneration in Marian processions. It's argued that the Slavic folk priesthoods preserve Asherah tree and abundance cults by routing them through Mary's fertility aspects. In France, the cult of the Magdalene, which is again veneration of the sacred feminine, the Black Madonnas, and appropriating of goddess temples into Marian Christian Marian worship. And this is all happening just before we've gone from BC time into the Phoenicians pushing this Baal and Queen of Heaven worship all through the Mediterranean on into France. That starts affecting the British Isles, right? Now we're up to AD 300-500s, right? I'm going to share my screen again. And what I'm going to show you is something interesting that I found on those ley lines, or that particular ley line, and that is, move Sam's head out of my way.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, so this ley line, when it runs through France, it runs right over the Grotto Sanctuaire de la Saint-Baume. That is, I mean, you're literally within, I think it's about 400 feet of this cave. That particular cave, remember me telling you the story about how the Merovingians created this idea of the divine right to rule, and that they were the descendants of the son of Christ and Mary Magdalene, and that Mary Magdalene supposedly left the Holy Land and fled through the Mediterranean, then into France, and then hid in a cave. Well, this is the cave. So this line that runs from William and Mary pyramid to the pyramid in Giza runs almost directly over the cave of Mary Magdalene. I'm going to show you another cave at the very end of this, and I'm trying to hurry up because I know we're past. But I'll show you another cave that's even that is even more interesting. Now, again, I talked a lot about the Stuarts in Scotland. So what does this have to do with Scotland and the Stuarts? So this is insane. The Scottish origin story laid out in the Declaration of Arbroath. Again, we're talking about Robert the Bruce, the dude who in the movie betrays William Wallace. All right. So in the Declaration of Arbroath, that is the sort of Declaration of Independence of Scotland. Okay. So right before they win their independence from England, Robert the Bruce puts out this declaration called the Declaration of Arbroath. And in it, he tells the supposed origin story of Scotland. And that story is of an Egyptian princess named Skoda, which is where supposedly the name of Scotland comes from. She marries a Scythian noble. Remember, I talked about the Scythians, who was living in Greece. They marry, they go to Egypt, but then they flee Egypt, supposedly because of the biblical plagues. They travel through the Mediterranean, traveling through Italy, ending up in the south of France, and then traveling into Ireland and Scotland. They fight the Tuatha De Danann and found Scotland as a country. This is where the supposedly the scone stones comes from. You know, the big crazy rock that sits underneath the chair that the kings and queens of England are initiated, whatever that's called, into the monarchy on.
Yeah.
Also, what's really interesting is Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote our Declaration of Independence, admittedly relied heavily on the Declaration of Arbroath to write our declaration.
Damn.
Thomas Jefferson is obsessed with Francis Bacon.
Nice.
Specifically, and again, Bacon is the nexus from the old world into what comes out the other end of England into America, right? He's the distillation of all this, mystery school knowledge into what came out over in the New World in America, right? So much so that Thomas Jefferson married into the Randolphs, who were part of the Bacon bloodline. He also employed up to 7 people who had direct lineage to Francis Bacon at his home in Virginia, Monticello. Okay, finally, what I think this points to, how it relates to Williamsburg. Francis Nicholson, the guy who laid out those 2 streets that create the pyramid, was an adept of the mysteries, made this ley line as a sort of point out what became of the Stuart bloodline, which is the American branch of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, sort of their origin story, where they came from, which I think not only shows where they came from, but what gods they venerate right up to the rites and rituals performed by Masons present day. I believe this because these, and what I'm about to show you, I'm going to start clicking through this and we can get out of here. But these are the other symbols that I've found on the campus of William and Mary. All right, so you get to start off with the pyramid there, right?
Yeah.
This is a perfect depiction.
Oh my God.
Now you can go to DC and you can look at all the, all these researchers have found these
the tree of life.
The Kabbalistic tree of life, right? There's
oh my God.
There's none more perfect than the one here at William and Mary. And I'm going to show you why it's perfect as well, right? So what you have with the tree of life is it starts down here and it sits on a water feature. And then the next Sephiroth sits on the next Sephiroth, which means foundation, sits on a gigantic rock garden filled with all these boulders, very out of place. Then you have the left side, or the left pillar of the tree of life, which is the feminine side. And you have the right side pillar of the tree of life, which is the masculine side. Okay. Well, these three buildings were the original female dormitories. These three buildings were the original male dormitories. You also have a Sephiroth. Remember this for later on. You have a Sephiroth right here, which is supposedly the hidden Sephiroth. It's kind of like the dark Sephiroth that they don't talk about a lot. Okay. And then right here where all these lines come together is the Sephiroth, which means beauty. Funny enough, the guy who created this big, beautiful, what they call the sunken gardens at the College of William and Mary was a Freemason. He was the guy tapped in the 1920s by the Rockefellers to do the modern renovation of the school. He added this, right? This is the dead center of the sunken garden. Not only that, if you measure from this corner to this corner, and then likewise from this corner to this corner, those measurements are exactly 666 feet. Okay.
Oh my God.
This, I'll show you in a minute too. This entire campus is laid out on measurements of 666. But what's interesting is there's a Sephiroth right here. Oh, let me go back. Hold on. There's a Sephiroth right here, and there's a Sephiroth right here. And then, so these two pillars, the masculine and feminine, come up and they meet right here at the original building, right? The one named after the original Mason, Sir Christopher Wren. Now, what's crazy is this is the crown Sephiroth. Okay, so crown. And what the crown Sephiroth does is it's supposed to marry, it's the last Sephiroth, and it's supposed to marry the masculine and the feminine into one under the crown, right? Well, what more perfect of a representation than a college building named after King William and Queen Mary, the masculine and the feminine. And not only that, the crown. This is the crown Sephiroth that marries the masculine and the feminine. And if you also look up the early William and Mary kind of calligraphic logo, it is the W for William and the M for Mary over top of one each other that creates like three phallus and chalices. Okay. Now, so what we've got here is I'm showing you the pyramid that relates back to Egypt. You've got the Kabbalistic tree of life, which again relates back to the Levant and Babylon. Okay, these places that I've already talked about. And what you have next is this is a symbol that I had never heard of before, but is an exact representation of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and it is a symbol used by the Pythagoreans. Zeke, get out of here, bro. I'm on a podcast.
Zeke can hang.
That's my godson. He's in a metal band. Nice. He's been sending me all his new music. So this particular symbol is called the Tetractys. Okay, it was used by the Pythagorean cult, which I had heard of Pythagoras, but I had never heard of this cult of Pythagoreanism. Okay, it is the exact message that the Kabbalistic tree of life conveys. It's the exact same thing, including, see where it all comes to a point right here, right where the 666 measurements cross, right where the beauty Sephiroth of the tree of life is. This is the most important part of this symbol, the Tetractys, right? And it means beauty and marriage. Okay. Now, each one of these triangles is measured 333 feet. Now, if you go down to your bottom right, see what I'm circling here? You can see that the modern campus of William and Mary bent their buildings to maintain these triangles. You see that? You see that they bend this building to maintain this one. This is the modern campus, the additions on them. And again, like I said, there's nothing but 666 666 measurements all over, which of course to a Christian, we think 666 mark of the beast. To a Mason, and who were literally the people who laid out all of this landscape, they refer to it as the seal or the sign of Solomon, which represents the 666 talents that he was paid. That's another part of actually the first part of the Bible that refers to the number 666 refers to the amount of tax that Solomon would receive in silver. We all know that the Masons are obsessed with Solomon. They attach him to their origin story, which again, where does that come from? But the building of Solomon's temple. Okay. So the next one.
Before what's the the newest building in that?
So I mean, you've got buildings here. So this is super old. These two were older still. These were built in the 1920s. Again, when the Rockefellers had come in from Stratford upon Avon, upon hearing of Marie Bauer Hall's theorized discovery of a Baconian Shakespearean vault right up the street, right up here up Duke of Gloucester Street. So, and then you've got, I mean, some of these buildings are super modern day, but that goes
keeping up with the program. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I think. I believe maybe not overt. You don't have, not every president of William and Mary is some Masonic overlord, but I do believe that they have influence, in some way that may help to shape. Or it could be as simple as somebody on a board recognizes the same thing that I recognize and continues the symbolism along the ages. Yeah. So what I just threw up, so what you have, again, just to recap, is you've got the Egyptian pyramid that I talked about. You've got the Hebrew Kabbalistic tree of life. You've got the Greek Tetractys. Okay. And now you've got how it ends, which is the Christian cross. Now, this Christian cross may seem arbitrary, but where I got it from was Oak Island. Now, I started watching the Curse of Oak Island because I'm a nerd, and because I realized that Francis Nicholson is very involved in one of the leading theories of what may be buried on Oak Island. And that is, remember that silver hoard that a guy named William Phipps went and found down in the Caribbean and supposedly hid half of it on Oak Island in the 1600s? Well, Francis Nicholson was the governor of the New England colony where Sir William Phipps came from. Okay. And it would have been the person to sort of give him approval to go down there and get all the silver off of this Spanish galleon that had wrecked. Right. So Francis Nicholson, the guy who laid out the layout of this piece of property, one of his last governorships was of Nova Scotia. So he starts off his career as the lieutenant governor of New England, which is where Sir William Phipps comes from. And then this guy supposedly hides some of this treasure at Oak Island. Francis Nicholson continues his career. He is the governor of South Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland, making, imbuing this mystery school symbolism in town planning wherever he goes. And then one of his last governorships is at Nova Scotia. Also, we don't know much about him because, again, he was an illegitimate son. The only thing we do know about him is that he had a sister and that she lived in Nova Scotia and that her last name was Phipps. They say that she never married William Phipps because he had a wife in New England, but it wasn't uncommon for people to travel between countries like that and have a mistress who also took their name. So that's also neither here nor there. But the reason for this cross is because of Oak Island. On the show of Oak Island, on that island, they found these massive boulders, right? A guy who is a Shakespeare Baconian decoder named Peter Almanson found out about these massive stones, and he attached a tree of life to them. And they're these huge tons of weight stones, and they're hand hewn into these cone shapes on the island. And they all, when taking an overhead view of them, they create a cross, and they create a cross to these exact dimensions. Now, what's crazy is the first point I put right here. Now you can't really see, but if you were to zoom on this, you would find a statue of a guy named Lord Botetourt. He was another governor of Virginia. He was also a Freemason, and this statue is very strange. It's moved around, but it's always come back to this place, right? So I needed 145 feet from something to make this cross. It's exactly 145 feet from the Oak Islands, the top of the Oak Island stone cross, right? It's 145 feet to the next stone, which would be the cross-section stone. That it's exactly 145 feet to the front door of the Christopher Wren building. Then it's exactly on the to the side to the arm stones of the cross at Oak Island. It's 360 feet from the cross stone to the end of the arm stone, and it's exactly 360 feet from the front door of the Christopher Wren building over to those oldest roads in the colony that were put there by Francis Nicholson. Now, the crazy thing is I can't remember the exact measurements right now, but what I do know is there's two stones over on Oak Island. There's one here and there's one here. Now, there's no marker, there's no measurement in here at William and Mary on the inside the sunken garden here, unless you are to do this and overlay the Tetractys and the Kabbalistic tree of life. And then those stones, these measurements from the front door to here is where the next stone is found at William and Mary, which lands right on that hidden Sephiroth of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and then ends where the Tetractys, the tree of life, the crossed 666 measurement also lands.
Oh God, it's so crazy, dude.
I know I'm running late. Let me get through this last little bit because it's mind blowing. I don't mean to cut you off, Sam.
No, it's totally fine, dude.
I can feel you. I can feel you going. And I know you guys need to get out of here.
I'm not. I'm loving it. Sorry, dude. I'm just listening. So I get yelled at for interrupting. I get yelled at for listening. I can't fucking win.
So that's all well and good. And there are tons of things that connect William and Mary beyond Francis Nicholson. The trees that they cultivated originally at the campus of William and Mary are live oaks. The reason that Oak Island is called Oak Island is because it was covered in live oaks. Now, live oaks are a tree that do not grow above the Mason-Dixon line, which means in order for them to have appeared on this island in Nova Scotia, they would have had to have been planted there purposefully. Now, in that bay where Oak Island sits, there are 400 islands. There's not a live oak on any one of those 400 islands, but Oak Island is covered with them. I think that was a marker to show the similarity or that there was something. Also, very early on in Virginia history, in fact, in Jamestown, when they were going through what they called the starving time, which was literally they could not keep people alive, and they kept having.
Dude, I've always thought that would make the best horror film.
Oh, dude,
Starving Time.
Oh, it's dark. You know that they've recently found like tons of evidence of like cannibalism, when like knife marks on skulls that they.
Yeah,
found.
Dude.
That's Starving Time.
Yeah, dude, and it's called. I thought that would be. You just had a film and you called it the Starving Time, because that's what they call this, and it would make.
How long was the Starving Time?
I mean, it was less than a decade, but the problem was they came over in 1607. And John Smith, who I could go on for a whole nother episode about how John Smith is not what they depict him as. I mean, he is basically depicted as just a criminal who kind of had no other prospects in England, so he jumped this boat and came over. Not the case at all. You watch Game of Thrones, right? You know, Bronn of the Blackwater, right? Yeah, like the best character on the whole show, a sellsword who like just sells himself to go fight for people. That's what John Smith was before he came to Jamestown in 1607. He was a sellsword up. This is absolutely crazy. He was a sellsword fighting the Turks or the Ottoman Empire. Like he sold himself to be a soldier with the
Sam is in already when he hears they're fighting.
Yeah. So literally check this out, dude. This is how badass John Smith was. John Smith was a yeoman. I think that he had another lineage, but that it's been hidden. But he goes and becomes a sellsword for these guys who are fighting the Ottomans, right? He ends up, because he had read all these books and whatnot, he ends up creating this fireworks display at a siege that takes the people's like focus off of where they're coming from, and then he becomes a commander, right? Not only then later on they go to another siege. The Ottomans are holding this place, and I believe it's somewhere in Wallachia, like literally Dracula town, right? So bear with me because this is insane. John Smith is part of the army that is laying siege to this castle that the Ottomans are holding, but it's in like Romania or something, right? The guy inside the castle says, let's settle this old school. You send out your best guy, we'll send out our best guy and see who wins. So John Smith gambles. There are like 5 guys who want to be the guy, right? From the besieging army. And so John Smith wins the whatever card game or dice that they play, and he gets to be the guy. He goes out, meets this guy who's supposedly dressed in all this pomp and circumstance. John Smith beats the shit out of him, cuts his head off, brings his head back to the commander. The guy in the castle's pissed. He says, send another guy out. Okay. They send another guy out.
Rude.
John Smith kills that guy, chops his head off, brings it to the commander. The guy in the castle still won't give up the castle, so he sends out another guy. John Smith murks him, cuts his head off, brings it back to the commander.
You just keep doing it this way, I guess, and the whole army would be gone eventually.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is that John Smith now is like a hero. He helped them with creating this diversion because of his use of like gunpowder and whatnot to get the other castle
White
taken over.
Shit, dog. Yeah.
Then he takes he kills 3 guys in single combat to be to take this castle, right?
Awesome.
The at this point they're fighting for the Prince of Wallachia. So literally a descendant of Count Dracul. Okay.
Oh my
Crazy.
God.
John Smith is a yeoman. He does not have a coat of arms. Once he gets to meet this prince, who is a Bathory, his cousin is Elizabeth Bathory, woman. No shit. His cousin, the prince,
the greatest serial killer of all time.
Yes.
Her cousin knights John Smith. So John Smith becomes a knight by the Prince of Wallachia, okay, cousin to Elizabeth Bathory, and is given.
Can we take this down? Is this what's on the screen important? What you said?
Oh yeah, we can. But I got a couple other slides, but I can go back. But yes, so John Smith actually gets knighted by Elizabeth Bathory's cousin, direct lineage of the Dragon Court, right? And then forever after that, he has a coat of arms, which is 3 Turkish heads on a shield. Pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude.
Anyway, that was a diversion from what it was, but these were the type of people.
You still got the share up. It's just kind of showing us, and you got to hit end share it on the actual. Hit that.
Well, actually, I'm gonna go right back into.
How isn't this a movie?
I know. Well, they did. They made it Pocahontas. Disney did, and they made it lame.
That's what they do. They take cool shit and they make it stupid.
All right, so we're talking about Oak Island. I got a couple other slides, and then I'll let you guys go. Right. So I needed I was wondering about a connection to Oak Island. So what I end up finding is if you run a line connecting this Sephiroth of the Tree of Life and the Crown Sephiroth, and follow that line all the way out to its end, where you end up is Oak Island, which it falls. Remember that cross? So you can't see the red, but this is the cross. This is Nolan's cross. This is that stone alignment. Okay.
Damn.
So that line ends right on top of the arm of the cross here. And then I started doing all this stuff. I attached the exact the same Tree of Life that's at William and Mary to the same place here on Oak Island. Then I attached the Tetractus to it. And what's interesting about the Tetractus is it just so happens to fall this yellow line. This is a compass. This is perfect north, perfect east and west, and this is the exact dead center of Oak Island. Okay.
Damn.
And just so happens the beauty Sephiroth of the Tree of Life lands here. The very bottom of Nolan's Cross lands here. The middle of the Tetractys lands right dead center of Oak Island. Okay. Not only that, moving forward quickly, if you continue to follow the line from William and Mary out, you end up if you look down here, it goes across England, north of London. Okay. What it goes across is a specific piece of land that there's a building on called Bruce's Castle. Okay. Or Bruce Mansion. Before Scotland gained its independence from England, the Bruces, the Stuarts, the Bruces, the Sinclairs, they were lords, right? And Scotland was basically part of England. They were a lesser people. They gave them a whole lot of crap. But the lords of Scotland, a lot of times, also had land holdings in England. Well, this piece of land that it goes over right here is is that piece of land that literally Robert the Bruce owned. Okay. Not only does it go over that piece of land, the oldest structure on that piece of land is a big round tower that they say supposedly they've lost all information on. They don't know what it is, who built it, but they know it's super, super deep and that it's super, super old. Right. That becomes interesting when you find out that if you continue this line out, it runs over Istanbul, which was Constantinople. Okay. And then it ends right here in Antioch in Turkey.
Damn.
But not only does it, this is insane. It lands on the front door of the cave church of St. Peter. This is a church in Antioch, okay, where it is alleged that St. Peter, the apostle who walked with Jesus after Jesus' death, this was the cave that he preached from. Not only that, during the Crusades, all the Christians had taken Antioch over, right? Taken Antioch from the Saracens. Well, then the Saracens come back and they've besieged Antioch, okay? And the Christians inside are outnumbered like 10-1. They're all going to die, okay? And this is written record. So there were, Crusader record keepers at the time inside of Antioch at the time. And what happens is overnight, one morning, this really poor, like destitute guy walks up to the bishop of Antioch and says, I had a vision last night and Saint Andrew or somebody told me that if we dig under the altar in St. Peter's Cave Church, we will find the spear point that pierced the side of Christ. Okay. There is record from the Crusades of them then going, okay, because the guy said, not only will we find this spear point, but any army that holds the spear point can't be defeated, right? So there's records. They dig up underneath the altar. They don't find it. Finally, at the end, they find this little piece of metal. They dig around. They pull it up. It's a spear point. Whether or not it really is the spear point that pierced the side of Christ, they find a spear point underneath this altar that was in a church kind of created by an original apostle. What happens after that is like the next day or shortly after that, after announcing that they found the spear point that pierced the side of Christ, they whip everybody in the city of Antioch into a frenzy. Again, they're outnumbered 10-1. All these Saracens, bloodthirsty, outside ready to kill them. They start chanting. They leave Antioch or let the Saracens in, and they wipe them out. It's like this unprecedented like defeat of the Saracens. They wipe them all out. Then that spear point gets taken to the seat of the Holy Roman Empire, which is in Constantinople, which that line goes directly across. Okay. And then obviously that's the spear of destiny. That's the thing Hitler was looking for. I mean, people have been trying to obtain. Now, whether it was a real one or not, whatever, at that point, it becomes a religious relic that's super important. It goes to Constantinople. It's sort of lost after that. But part of the legend of Oak Island is that possibly it was a safety deposit box for the Templars who were in possession. Obviously, they were a crusader army. They were in possession of a whole bunch of religious relics and money that nobody ever found. And they think that it came to Oak Island. And then that line points from Oak Island to Williamsburg, where we have this legend of this Baconian Shakespearean vault. And so my overarching theory is that these sort of vaults and things were all over the world, and things of importance for the mystery schools were held there. And dun, da, da, da.
Paul, you're saying that you think they're held in Oak Island and in Virginia.
I think that there is a possibility that they could have been at some point. I don't think there's anything left on Oak Island.
That's so crazy.
And I think if there was anything there when the Rockefellers got there in the 1920s and
they took it,
I'm pretty sure it's gone. Yeah.
Just like the gold in Fort Knox, gone.
It's gone.
Just fucking gone, dude. These elites are scumbags. Damn,
Sorry,
dude, that's crazy. That was a fire episode.
I got one question for you. Okay,
how dare you?
The older stuff in DC and in your around Williamsburg and throughout Virginia, I know some people will say that they possibly weren't built by people or humans. What do you put any stock in that? What do you think? Do you think it's possible?
So you're getting into the whole like Tartaria or earlier mud flood.
Do you think it's possible they predate our do you have any reason to doubt that people could have built those buildings?
Some of the buildings, maybe. I don't. If I'm honest, I don't find a ton of the mud flood kind of early buildings all that compelling. But it's also because I have all this crap in my brain that I just spewed out on you guys, and Tartaria and that stuff came way later on, and I kind of just had to put it out of my mind because I was like, God, where do I fit all this stuff in? Like, I can't. I've given myself
there's so much going on. Yeah.
But then again, I don't look. America was important not only to the Stuarts, but I mean, there's an idea that the Phoenicians, the early Greeks, the early Egyptians, when they talked about this land to the west that was going to be the continuation of Atlantis, that America was that land.
Oh,
and I think some of the really weird stuff that is found here may point to maybe an attempt to make America that, or the possibility that, maybe America was that. I mean, I look at the stuff in San Francisco and like the ghost fleet of San Francisco.
Yes.
And that's enough to make me go, okay, for sure. There's something to the possibility that, especially out west, there definitely could have been something. I mean, the ghost fleet of San Francisco Bay makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, you have to do some real mental gymnastics to believe that the gold rush people took boats to San Francisco
and then just
left them there. And then by the time they take a picture of them, like a couple years later, they all look like they're 100 years old, tattered, and like
that photo is crazy.
It's insanity. There's no way that those are 2-year-old boats. I mean, there would be some weathering, but there's I just can't see how it would be. And then obviously, you have the lithographs that they created the photo, the camera in like 48, and you've got lithographs dated like 47 of a view of like the whole like kind of San Francisco Harbor Bay area, and there's like 6 little cabins with smoke coming out of their chimneys on the drawings and paintings, and then 2 years later you've got these massive marble like state buildings. It's just I don't see how that's possible. So I definitely leave room for those things to be a possibility.
The World Fair.
Yeah, dude, the World Fairs are weird as hell too.
It is crazy, dude. It's hidden history is my favorite shit, dude.
Yeah,
so crazy. Ernie, this has been great, dude.
Thank
Fire
you, dude.
episode, all time bang, banger, dude. As a guy who everyone thinks is Francis Bacon, it's very cool to see me.
Everyone who's crazy.
My due my respect for how important I am to bring the old school to the new.
Thank you
school.
for writing all that Shakespeare, Sam.
No
Creating the
problem.
modern English language.
Yeah,
Been
you're
helpful.
welcome.
Why do you
You're
think Sam's writing
welcome.
a new book? Why do you think why do you think Sam wants to write a new book?
Yeah, I do. But then I also think I've written enough books. You know, once you write Shakespeare, do you
It's a
really
lot,
need to
man.
write anything else?
Quite a canon. Yeah.
Yeah, so much pressure.
So I guess you would maybe maybe you would even fall into that Count of Saint Germain thing since you're what time?
Maybe, dude.
Yeah.
You just think like if chicks read more, I'd get so much more pussy. You know, just knowing all the great shit I wrote.
We're just not writing the right stuff. I mean,
yeah, that's true. I need to write about how chicks are jerking off werewolves. That seems to be the big thing they're into now. Just chicks jerking off monsters.
What?
Yeah.
Talking
No,
about
you haven't heard? That's like the number
that.
one on the New York Times bestsellers. Like
Really? Oh,
chicks jerking off monsters.
Wow.
It's the logical conclusion of the furry culture.
It's
Yeah,
Nephilim. They love Nephilim. It's another Nephilim thing.
Yeah, chicks fuck anything, dude. Hey, one more time, Ernie. Tell them where they can find you.
So right now, Virginia's for Conspiracy Lovers podcast. There's like 3 episodes up right now, but this week I'm going to be shoving all the lost interviews back up there. So there'll be a bunch of re-releases, and then all of my interviews and 20, 30 so episodes that we've done are up on YouTube at Virginia's for Conspiracy Lovers, and that's really the best way to consume it because there's a lot of visuals that we do, and I'm just a good looking guy, so it's nice to see my face on the screen, I guess. But,
bro, you crushed. Make sure all links
that.
below. Check out Ernie's stuff, and we appreciate you. Come on, don't jump off.
Okay,
let's break down the episode. All right, guys, what'd you guys think about Ernie LeBrecque? I loved it.
Cool guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Johnny stuff. Like American.
One note, his camera, he was like so far away from the camera that when it's all 4 of us, he's like a tiny little, he's like 3 pixels on the screen.
Yeah, when I did with Stu Peters, he's like, "Can you zoom me in? Can you?" I like, no, what do I look
what
like?
You told me I could have done. I could have cropped him a little bit when he talked.
Oh, really? I don't know how to do that. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I could. It would have been, especially when it was just 2 of you guys. It would have been easier.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? I find
pod.
that stuff super interesting.
Me too, dude. I love it too. Especially if you're listening to this and you can, if you have a moment, go watch it too, if you can, because he brought some cool visuals of the places he's talking about, and seeing it adds an element, an important element, I think. Yeah, if you just listen to this whole episode, go watch it again. We would love to get 2 views out of you.
Hey Johnny, what was that thing he was talking about? The survival or the?
Oh yeah, the starving time. Yeah, dude. I have a note in my phone of like things that I think would be great for like screenplays and stuff. And one of them is literally, it's called The Starving Time. I just think that would be a great, like a historical horror film about this time that these people were starving and they had to resort to like cannibalism, and they were like they found like the body of a young girl that had like tool marks where they had like scraped the meat off her bones, and there were Native Americans around, like,
so this wasn't like
this
wasn't like Aztec sacrificing, or they just
no. This was
nothing.
just starving people in like an early.
They said that happened in Russia too, and that could happen here, dude. I'm being dead fucking serious.
Yeah, I'll just give you the Wikipedia version of it. The starving time at Jamestown in the colony of Virginia was a period of starvation during the winter of 1609 to 1610. There were about 500 residents at Jamestown at the beginning of the winter, and by spring, only 61 people remained alive.
How many did it start with?
They started with 500 at the beginning of the winter, and by spring, 61 people remained.
Oh my God!
I mean,
is it all dudes?
But think about it. You end up you eat the horses, you eat the dogs, you eat the cats, you eat the rats, and then the people start dying of sickness, so you eat them, and then eventually you're going back at all the meat that wasn't good enough the first time around and scraping it off the bones. And then you got to worry about water. You got to worry about Indians.
The cold.
They were kidnapped. I'll just read from here. Various attempts at farming led to kidnappings and killings by the Powhatan Indians. They were trying to steal from the Indians. There was disease. So think about it. They had they were at war with the Indians around them. and think about how scary they must be with their faces painted, unfamiliar customs coming in at night. It would have just been one of the worst places in history to exist. If you could choose a place that was like hell on earth, this would be one of those places. These people were so damn rugged, dude. These people who colonized our country. And there was a bunch of like supplies that they were trying to get here, and the ships just couldn't make it.
But the history of America is just so hidden, dude. It's like they just want you to believe they came over here and everybody was in huts. I think there's a lot more here, dude. I'm telling you, man. Go to El Paso. Let's look at the buildings of El Paso.
Are you Googling that, or you want me to?
Yeah, I just want to look at it.
I'm
telling you, dude.
I got it right here.
Like, look at these buildings, dude. Look at these fucking buildings in El Paso.
Share your screen.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Here.
Can just look up buildings. Just go down. I mean, look at these buildings in El Paso. And this is like a border town, bro. Something was there at some point. Look at it, dude. It's got huge metropolis buildings, and it's just like a small freaking like border town. I'm telling you, dude.
What's the other town we were talking about during the gold rush, where all of a sudden San Francisco was full of like a whole city in like years? That shit's nuts too.
It's super interesting, dude. The history of it. And then, there's this whole fight, Netanyahu, about the Judeo-Christian values. And then other people was like, no, it's just Christian values. It's Freemason. It's Masonic values, dude. That's what this country's built on.
Watching him manipulate the like his language to try to gin up some kind of loyalty among Christians has been maybe the most revealing thing about all of this. How cynical they are, how cynically they use religion to get people into a tizzy and bloodthirsty, like even the president on Easter Sunday with that crazy tweet, which we can talk about that some BS, but it's like
insane, dude.
But yeah, the history. But I love that history shit, Sam. Like you were saying, especially, I mean, in Virginia. Have you ever been to like Williamsburg? It's did you do like the proper like colonial kind of like that experience where you see those people who still dress like colonists and stuff?
No.
It's a whole. We used to go on field trips there. People who grew up around Virginia, and there's a dedication to presenting the history there. It's impressive, and a lot of it. The town is still like it used to be, like they say it used to be anyway. And yeah, to see that. I'm curious what you guys think. I wanted to ask him this, but we kind of ran out of time there. What do you think about
the gays?
Is it why do they put things in those arrangements? Is it meaningful to them personally, or do they think it gives them some kind of power? Does it do you get what I'm saying?
It's symbolic, I'm sure, and it might be at the time some kind of power boost, energy manipulation thing, but it's also a signal. It's like, hey, dog, we were here. Those
right, but think about it. Think about it. The people who can see that though are people flying above with a helicopter. Like most people on the ground level aren't going to see that. These things are all
just hiding in plain sight.
Like who's going to go measure 666 feet? You
to these guys, it matters, dude. Those things matter. It's like 9/11. All the new numbers of 9/11 are all Thelema. Like that.
No, what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, I don't think it's as much about like a wink to other people who would come along as much as it is about maybe power or something. You know what I mean? What you said before about energy and stuff.
Like you wouldn't.
Who's going to recognize that, right? You know what I mean?
If you were an architect, you could build a city, you wouldn't put some type of symbology in there. Like if you had the right to like start like a city, I would try to put like, I don't know, some type of symbology or make it
like now we're on to something. What kind of symbology would you put into your
I would love to hear
city,
this,
actually?
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I would do the tinfoil hat logo around the city. That way I could zoom out and then people are like from the top they can see.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Like, that's
that.
what I mean. Like your initials. Like, I mean, you just get
You put your initials. Oh, that's cool. You put like XG.
Johnny, it's the same thing with the CAA building. That's the all-seeing eye. Those who know.
Yeah, but I get that because that's a modern building, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So it expects to be seen from above. But this is very old. Nobody's expecting that to be seen from above. Do you get what I'm saying? Which suggests, now does it suggest that maybe it was expecting to be seen from above? And
Nazca
there's some
lines.
kind of technology that they had knowledge of that we don't know they had knowledge of at the time. That's possible.
It's like the Nazca lines. Those things
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
Peru at
Totally.
the top. Like, why are you building it if no one's
Yeah.
gonna see?
Who's that for? Yeah. God, like what?
Yeah, it's very weird, dude. It's very weird.
I love it though.
Guys, if you go to samtripoli.com, you can see my dates where I like to get my freak on. Okay. This weekend. No. This week. Nope. Next weekend. Hamilton, Toronto, Dallas, Fort Worth, Huntington Beach. I'm going to be shooting my special, dropping Hammer of the Gods on the 22nd of May, June 12th, Albuquerque. 1,000 episodes sold out, but we're going to get after party going. Joke World, Lawrence, Kansas, and then Tulsa, followed by Skankfest, followed by Austin, finishing out, and I also Joke World. I already said that. If you go to samtripoli.com, all my dates, all my stuff, my premium content's there. Telling you I'm banging out as much as I can. Nothing but bangers. Now, when we do tinfoil hat, that's more evergreen. You can listen to it 3 years from now. Still enjoy the conversation. This is more of the current event stuff. When I do that, go down. Johnny, talk to me about Cash Daddies.
Yeah, you can go on the Patreon right now and pay for absolutely nothing and still get most of the picks. So to go do that.
Yeah, good for you, Howie, you freaking retard.
Howie is
freebies. These are freebies. You guys get better stuff in there.
We got a whole community around.
I read that as sold spy pussy. That's how I read that. Go back.
He's not Israeli. Come on.
Go down. Chaos Twins coming. I should have something. Word war debate. Very important, guys. Very important. Word war debate. Big news hopefully coming. We'll set it up. Bang. And then the Word war debate contender series. That should be starting next weekend. Next week. We're very excited about Chaos Twins. I promise you an update by next week. Go down. Tinfoil hat t-shirts. Don't forget about the bangers, dude. I gotta get that going too. The bangers. Disobey's coming. Only one shirt left.
And it's $15. Go get it.
It's $15. You guys stop. The logo's important. Local celebrity back in stock, man. I love local celebrity. Tinfoil hat, black and white.
Oh, that's the one you wanted. That's the banger.
I love this banger, dude. That's the Once Upon a Time This Flat Earth. You have Tim Dillon. You have Duncan Trussell. Johnny, I'm telling everybody the Rothschild is you. The guy in the cloak right there. That's you.
Okay. Thank you.
Ariana Grande. That's Ariana Grande.
Yeah. Then we have XG, Hillary Clinton, Trump, and myself in there. Bang. One of the best shirts ever designed of all time. By the way, the yellow looks fire, bro. The yellow Eddie Bravo, look into it.
Oh,
that is a
cool.
fire shirt. I don't do yellow. I might get one.
Is that you as the little baby? Who's the little
Yes, that's me with my giant head laughing and my glasses on. That is fire. That is fire. Okay, going back real quick. Let's get into these. All right. We got gold and silver. Get into it. Aquacura hydrogen brown gas. Harley Ray, candles, crystals, sage, get into it. Energize, dude, chemical-free body. I take it every day. I get sad when I run out, and I got to get more. Joel Staley's, if you want to get in shape. EMF rocks for the G's who keep banging, dude. If you want to stop dirty electricity, EMF rocks. Prometheus for decentralized. And if you love XG asking great questions and horrible questions, you guys got to check out Brain Supreme. It's when his body is a rockin'. Go check out the YouTube channel real quick. I got to make a banner for that. Tinfoil Hat Official. Check that out. Please subscribe. We're almost at 54,000. This should be 200,000 subscribers. Okay, we're just banging, hanging, and banging. Karate fucking chopping. We're hanging and banging. What? Okay, go back. And then, hey, XG, what do you got going on? What do you want them to know about?
Check out my podcast, Extreme Marks the Spot. I do deep dives and I do like snowboarding bullshit. Go check it out, please.
I like it. And Johnny?
Check out the new Broken Sim, and then I'm on Instagram, Johnny A. Woodard. Check me
So
out.
Johnny, so we're officially going to move Broken Sim to Mondays at noon.
Yeah. Live.
And we're moving Cash Daddies to Tuesday at noon.
And these are official dates, right, guys? You guys go live. You guys go live on these?
We're doing it live. Johnny's going to
Live.
build. Let's see how long it takes for him to build a studio in his freaking house.
Live N-words.
Live M-words.
That's the name of the show now. Live N-words.
I would love that if it was called Live Real Ass M-words. That'd be the best, dude.
Oh, I mean, they can go to your other website to find it. What is it? Whitenigga.com?
Whitenigga.com. Go grab your tickets.
Oh, I forgot about that.
All right, guys, enjoy the highlight.
I tell them, go to that website and let me know where it's
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah, we're crushing it, dude. Anyways, great episode. I thought he nailed it, knocked it out of the park. All-time banger, dude. Banger. I would say the two shows we had today, I talked probably as little as I ever have on episodes because they were so interesting.
Yeah, you talked so little that guy thought you were like losing interest, but
I know. I'm like, I can't win. I either cut people off or I'm getting disinterested. I'm enjoying it. It was deep. Come on now.
Like, I never thought you could do a whole podcast about Virginia conspiracies, but fuck yeah.
He did it, dude.
You can do one about it as well.
Also, I love that Dana just waltzes in there while you're podcasting. Like,
yeah, I'm like, I'm working.
But seriously, I mean, like, she was worked in studio environments. Where would that ever be acceptable? Just start talking while somebody is.
He doesn't. It's because he doesn't have a live.
He needs like a live light. Is that what it is? You need a light.
Live light outside. Dana works.
Oh, I do need that.
Yeah,
I do need that.
On air, flashing.
On air. Leave me alone.
Sam just leaves it on like 24 hours a day.
Yeah. All right, guys.